All right, we're now going live again. Sorry, you guys, I'm back. Appears the stream got cut off again. Something happened, so I just deleted the previous two videos. Just trying to pick up where I left off. The topic of this video has been a very emotional past couple weeks and months for me, uh, and I just wanted to let you all know my court case got dismissed. My court case was dismissed, so that was good news. On a side note, some things that happened. I got some victories, by the way. Let you guys know about. Um, Let me see. I had some notes, some other information I wanted to go over, by the way. But also, before I forget, uh, I found out Ananda Lewis passed away. If I didn't mention this already, when I found out, it was before I had to go into work one evening. By the way, I almost started breaking down at that time, held back the tears. But then that morning, after I got off work, I just broke down. It was just hard because I felt that was just too young to die. Ananda Lewis, uh, by the way, hope I'm saying her name. I can't even think clear sometimes. I follow her from years ago on BET and MTV. I remember her very well. She was a personality. This is before the era, before a lot of people are doing YouTube videos. There's a lot of clout chasing happening out here. She was somebody that actually went to school for, performing arts and production, radio. And she was during a time period of era before social media is taken off like the way that it is. You did have social media back then, by the way, but it was not nothing near compared to where it is now. Now everybody has more access to smartphones. The phones were different and stuff like that back then, that era. But I wanted to say rest in peace. Why I was more emotional, a friend of mine called me, a guy that calls me every now and then, is because I also found out too, Brian McKnight's son Nico died. Brian McKnight was one of my favorite music artists. In case you don't know, rest in peace to Nico. That's Brian McKnight's second biological son after Brian McKnight Jr. From his first wife, Julie. Nico passed away. Rest in peace. This has been a while. I'm kind of late on this, but I just wanted to give my condolences out. Brian McKnight Jr. used to follow me on Twitter. By the way, I am aware of some of the that was dealing with the family situation. I think, in my opinion, Brian Sr., he was not really given a fair shake as to what happened. I was going to do a video really addressing, taking a deep dive as far as what was really going on in that situation. But I wish him well. Know he has a new family now. Both his sons, his two older sons, before Nico passed away, they actually lived with him and his new wife for at least a decade. But a lot of people don't know that. Oftentimes, that's not brought up on a side note because people are trying to paint Brian McKnight in a negative light because of their own hidden agendas and ulterior motives. It's been a lot of famous people, entertainers and music artists that have gotten remarried before. But why I don't understand Brian McKnight is getting this type of smoke is beyond me. When there's been so many and in certain demographics, I that puts me in a whole nother conversation I'm not going to touch on. But that's why it kind of hurt me because remember seeing Nico and Brian McKnight Jr. in concert with their father years ago in person, actually, after the show was over with, on stage, just chilling on the stage for quite a while. One of the times I stayed over one of his concerts at Shane Park years ago, which got renamed after Aretha Franklin died, became Aretha Franklin Park, by the way. So, in case you guys don't know, of course, Ananda Lewis passed away. That a lot of this stuff that happened, why I said I titled the video, it's been an emotional past couple weeks because Ananda had one of those spirits. She was a kind-hearted person. She seemed very down to earth. She had that energy, like similar to the music artist Aaliyah. By the way, I was one of the first several hundred people that followed Ananda Lewis on Twitter, and I remember her mentioning this a while ago. that she was happy at the time and shocked that a lot of fans or people still remember her. She did a video about this. Now, I can't say I haven't checked my Twitter handle in a while because of all the controversy stuff that has taken place after certain individual bought it or whatever. And I did know about Ananda's political leanings, stuff like that, but it's just, she's somebody I grew up on when I was, you could say, my high school going into college era, that I remember watching years ago. That's why a lot of people, in case you don't know, she comes from my generation. A lot of people that come from the 90s generation gravitates to her a lot, in case you don't know, by the way. Because I talked to one friend, it was people that actually don't even really know, didn't really know who she was. And I get it. There's a lot of people that don't watch TV like that. And someone else I spoke to didn't really know who she was. But she is somebody I grew up on. I actually follow, by the way. I had a lot of plethora of people, things on a side note I'm into. But that just really shocked me when I found out, because I knew she was diagnosed with cancer, and I follow her on Instagram as well. My Instagram page, that's my more liberal page. My Twitter handle is like my more conservative side, by the way. But I thought she was going to beat it, and it just stunned me when I found out. I got the news from a particular content creator that I follow, and it just really hit me. So I was just really shocked to hear about that at that time, by the way. And also, like I said, to reiterate, Brian McKnight's second oldest son, biological son from his first wife, Julie, he passed away. He lost his battle. I think he was battling cancer as well, similar to Ananda. So rest in peace to Nico McKnight, by the way. And I found out that he was married. I didn't know that he was married, by the way. So I was just pretty shocked. So because you guys don't know, I'm into R&B music. That's my favorite genre of music, is actually love and R&B, neo soul. Brian McKnight was one of my top favorite artists, and I'm aware of all the stuff that is surrounding that whole situation. And like I said earlier, I just feel he's not given a fair shake. That's for a whole separate video, but this is about just sending my condolences out. So I found out, I didn't know originally, right after around the same time that I found out Ananda Lewis passed away, Nico McKnight passed away, in case you guys don't know. So I was also going to discuss too, let me see here. So I beat the court case. That was the good news. Also want to just give a shout out to a friend of mine that helped me set up my trust. That's the other good news. Someone I've known, I consider like an elder in the movement, a father to me, a brother. Didn't have to do that. Helped set several of my trust up, by the way. I can operate from the public and private. I won't go into the details about the other type of trust, but it costs like several $1,000s to get that type of work done professionally, by the way. And I got assistance, so that's completed. I still have some more things I have to do, but for the most part, they're pretty much, the documents are done, the binders, the assets, the precious metals that they're backed by, that's all completed. So that's the other good news. It's kind of been like a roller coaster. By the way, I also, let me see, mention, I was kind of going over this before the video got cut off earlier. I was contemplating, with my job, I'm still punching the clock at this security company I work for. I almost quit earlier this year, in case you guys don't know, back in January. And this past Friday, I almost quit, or got fired, because the office manager, they were upset, because I really don't like, I'll be honest, I don't like working events. And that's why doing this type of work in security, I'm concerned about my safety as well. Even though I'm not a police officer, that's a lot more dangerous. And it's reasons I could have become a police officer years ago. you make a lot. I make a lot more money. I could have easily been a police officer. I would have made tons more money than what I'm making now. By the way, if I decided, and years ago, thank God I found out what I know now, because I was open to working at prisons years ago till I found out there's why certain types of fields of security I don't work. I don't work prisons. I don't work hospitals, and I'm adamant. I don't like courthouses. I don't like searching people. I worked the Black Party years ago, back in 2004, at the city airport. By the way, put on by this guy's name. I think Will Phelps, the guy that's known in Detroit for putting on the big black and white parties. I'm not sure if he's still around or if he still does that, but he was pretty well known amongst like regional people that are famous for putting on. He did behind the black and white parties. They normally, the black parties they have around the winter time. The white parties are like done like in the summertime. It's like the white parties. But I worked that event. It was a real large event. We worked with multiple security companies, undercover police. I had to do search in the front. I don't like patting people down. I don't like filling on people. That's why I never applied for the TSA. By the way, it's just me personally. I have standards. I have boundaries that I do not cross. So they told me this event coming up that they wanted me to work, or they're contracting with some other for some type of event that it isn't bad. But like I said, I've got to do it because I'm a supervisor now. And but this is leading me to where I may be putting in my two-week notice really soon. By the way, I'll keep you guys posted on that if I decide to. By the way, they were trying to convince me, saying, "Oh, it pays more money, this, that, other." But I don't care about the money. I have enough money to quit. By the way, and that's on a real. I'm actually really considering. I've gotten offers from other security companies too. By the way, in case you guys don't know, I've got offers from Sterling Security Company offered to pay me. When I first declined, they went from 17 to 18 at the time. They said they would pay me. I got an offer from which used to be what's it called? Prudential got bought out by Titan Security. I ran into the manager one day while I was driving. He asked me to roll my window down. He was with somebody else. One of the managers asked me. He said he was just curious at the time how much I got paid, and I got an offer from them as well. I ran into a guy one night at the gas station not too long ago. It was like fourth or fifth company. Then a guy I work with does like certain types of event security that pays like 30 an hour. By the way, but at that time it was around a holiday. I couldn't do it because I had hurt my back this past Christmas, so that's why I turned that down at the time. But I've gotten offers, but I said, you know, there's a staffing shortage amongst certain types of career fields. In case you all don't know, security is one of them, just like the nursing field. My younger sister became a nurse. Big shout out to not too long ago. She mentioned she's kind of going through very similarly. When I found out she was working at a some type of assisted living facility down in Ann Arbor, and she said similar to me, they made her like a supervisor, and she said it was like just like too much. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. So I think these companies are becoming more desperate, but they're not going by the laws. They're not treating people fairly like they should. And that's why I stood in solidarity with all those companies, places that went on strike not too long ago, including my mom's, her old job, Blue Cross Blue Shield, the casino workers, the big three. I stood in solidarity because I feel, you know, I'm for employee rights, fair labor wages, all of that. I think is important. I actually went to school for business, so this was in my college classes. But I went, and my specific field was self-directed management. So I went to a business school. So I am on the verge, just to give you guys a heads up. I'm not sure exactly, but I may be calling it quits soon. By the way, another thing, it seems like they tried to sabotage me from my YouTube channel being able to grow. Because another thing, these companies, it's like they're in collusion with when you guys understand things, you have to go in depth to do a whole nother video to dissect this. But these 9-to-5 jobs also use as a distraction and use the form to control people and keep people poor in the condition that they're in. So you're not working on yourself. You're not really growing. You're not becoming ascending to higher degrees. You're basically staying stagnant. And because my job is so demanding, I'm a supervisor. They make every excuse, different reasons in the world. But like I said, that's maybe coming to an end soon. I may be really considering putting in my 2-week notice. But this, just to give you guys a heads up, this past Friday, I either almost quit or I almost got fired. By the way, real talk. So I'm reaching that point. I'm kind of tired of doing this type of work. I'm ready to do something different. Even if I have to go to a new company, I'm ready for a different scenery, a different field of work. So another thing that happened, trying to keep up with my time, is okay. I gotta head to my next location. So I am at what I call the slow. Always, none dare call it a conspiracy. I got in some trouble some years ago. My channel got shadow banned. Some of you guys I was going into details about came to me, told me I wasn't getting the views that I was supposed to get. I don't know how you guys were able to find that out. Then I figured out down the road there's metrics to calculate that. How was this channel in particular was being shadow banned. And I believe there is, like I said, a conspiracy to reiterate that the powers that be, they don't want you to get to a certain point, because some people have been able to make good money off YouTube. They've been able to quit their jobs entirely. You know, my channel was monetized, but because of what took place for, I believe, my opinion, very superficial reasons, it was demonetized. It cost me, I would say, estimate between hundreds of dollars in ad revenue, but I would have mostly, when my channel was really growing and was expanding, I was getting brand deals like Netflix deals. So they cost me anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 in revenue from brand deals, just brand deals by itself. That's potentially per month. I was getting offers, email offers, by the way, based on the audience and things that I had. I was telling a friend of mine like that behind the scenes what I've got to experience as a content creator. And I just put something basic together. I didn't really take this as far as when I get ready to go to the next level. I'm going to be getting better studio equipment if I do decide to continue to do videos down the road. But that was contingent upon if my investments had come through, by the way, which I have been getting information about the dinars. I talked to one of my private sources. I also have another private source that I got information from, and they told me they sent me some information through Telegram. I just kind of stopped doing videos about that because I just got tired of waiting all these years. I felt it was, in my opinion, it was being stalled, and it's part of the agenda. But I do have some new information separately in relation to that, and I probably have to put that down as far as a potential future topic. But things are in the midst of unfolding, by the way. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up. So, lastly, let's get to the meat and potatoes. Why this has been, I say, emotional past couple weeks to couple months for me, by the way, is I was sent to one particular site to cover, since I'm a supervisor at my particular job, this type of work that I do. And let's just say this place, I'll give you a hint. It's a clinic, by the way. I had to I have to open up, in case you guys don't know, the details for the security guard that's stationed at this location. You have to be trained for it. You have to open the building up. You have to. There's 2 separate gates in the morning. Now it's the summertime. You have to even open the Walker Gate. The Walker Gate is next to one of these other rear gates, but it may appear like a front entrance. But you have to be responsible when you first get there. You have to have a key to open the gate. Once you park, there's a separate lockbox that stays on site, on location, that we have to put in a code for. That's to access like a master key for all the rooms in the building. So you have to be trained. So you have to be a dependable person to really work that site. And I didn't. That's another location where I started off as a supervisor on the night shift, and they started really using me for the day shift, and I just felt like just really abusive. And this could be a whole nother separate topic of itself. While a lot of people leave the nursing industry or the security field or policing field because of a lot of these companies' manipulative tactics and things that they do. But the good news, I'll say on a side note, that came out of this, while I was going to get into the meat and potatoes, there was a young lady that I had met. I had my eyes on a long time ago. I actually had met a while ago that worked there, and she gave me her business card. And at the time, I did not know that I didn't know she was a doctor, by the way, until she gave me her business card. I'm trying to refrain from saying what department that she worked in. And let's say I approached her one day, someone I felt I was, interested in romantically. You never know where things can go, but just I was someone I was attracted to. Just leave it at that. And I didn't realize the day that I had approached her was on April 17th, which was symbolic because a very close friend of mine I grew up with shared with me privately years ago. That was a code date for this girl similarly he fell in love with years ago. I don't know if she went to the same middle school or high school, from where I remember from when he told me the story. But she lived in Oak Park at the time. And her name was Kareem. What I remember. I didn't know her last name. I just remember he told me her parents used to go to Word of Faith Church, which I used to attend years ago at one time. By the way, I never became a member when I was attending years ago, but just on a side note. And he told me, I asked him, I didn't understand this years ago when he told me this story. He was so much in love with her, and she put him up on things. She was liberal, which I didn't know what liberalism was. I didn't know anything about that. He told me she put him up on Royal Oak. So she was kind of like his first love, some refer to as puppy love. But she had a friend, I guess, that I met. I ended up, I knew her, her friend I met through my friend I'm telling the story about. And her friend's name was Brooke, by the way. But Brooke, I won't bring up really too much in the story. By the way, Brooke Samuel, to be specific, because I used to be friends on Facebook. I deactivated one of my older Facebook accounts some years ago. But my buddy said he fell in love with Kareem. I said, man, you're really good with women. I said, why can't you get with Kareem? What's the problem? So ironically, I'm going to say, from this situation I went through all these years later, I see the reason why when we go through life lessons, life experiences. And he told me at the time, and I didn't really understand it, and how she was like the one that got away. And he told me about another situation where he ran or came across her again at the time, and described what happened and how he had confessed his feelings to her. And I think she had a boyfriend at the time or whatever, and they were both crying, and it was very emotional. So we called it basically 417. That was the code name. That was her birthday. That was his one of his true loves. So ironically, the young lady that I had approached, I didn't realize out of all the days in the year, when I traced back the date, this young lady I was interested in, I was attracted to. And I didn't approach. I flirted, and I will admit, I flirted with different women that worked at this clinic, because I'm a guy. But this particular female, I'm serious about it. A lot of women, some women may not understand this because I'm learning from a friend of mine and analyzing this situation. Are very competitive. Big shout out to my mentor, my longtime friend. I say my sensei. By the way, thank you for the support, for helping break down, help me understand the situation better. And also my cousin in the DC area, who's very good with women. My older cousin, John Lawson. Big shout out to, appreciate my cousin. I got a chance to rap with him somewhat about the situation. He kind of gave me a different angle when I asked him for advice about this young lady that I fell in love with, by the way. So I was kind of dealing with that as well. And I had already detached from the situation. I told my cousin at the time, I said, I admitted to him, it's, I cry. It's nothing wrong with that. My aunt told me years ago, she said, when I fell in love, there was a situation where I used to date the pastor's daughter at the time. And I went through, it was very, interesting situation years ago. And I think that situation made me so strong, prepared me for all future relationships, future heartbreaks, things that you might deal with. And it's funny, both our parents, it seemed like tried to hook us back up or tried to get us back together years ago. By the way, that's after Carmen had got pregnant too. It's real interesting. But we had, but at one time years ago, her parents didn't, when they found out me and Carmen were in a secret relationship, they didn't want us talking anymore. And I won't go into details about that. That's a whole separate story. But I say that particular situation made me so strong years later when I go through heartbreaks. And the reason I brought my aunt up, my mom's sister, is she said, you'll go through these things or heartbreaks many times in the future. She said, nephew, she said, it's okay to cry. My cousin told me this many years ago. I don't know if they even remember. They had this conversation with me. Then my mother told me, she just gave me basic advice, but my parents were kind of really distant. My biological parents never really gave me dating advice and stuff like that growing up. They were physically present, but very emotionally absent, I would say. I'm just saying, just putting it out there. My father, the other thing I found out too, which just helped me remember it was emotional week, is when I went out for my mom's birthday on June 19th. My mom's birthday lands on Juneteenth. Her and my sister decided to eat out at some restaurant, someplace in Dearborn. I had never heard of. I think it's in Dearborn Heights, some restaurant. And she told me when I was going back to my car before I parked there, because I had trouble finding a restaurant to where it was situated, that my father, who lives in the Cleveland, Ohio area, he has a nurse that will come visit him at the time or where he was staying at. She told me he was, I think, moved to a different location because the nurse, so they diagnosed him with dementia. So she said my sister was planning on going down there sometime this week, but I told her she didn't know at the time, I had a court date coming up this past Thursday, which I mentioned earlier. The charges were dismissed. I was really, I haven't been in touch with, my father in years, but at that time I had to be strong. She just dropped that on me all of a sudden, and that kind of really shook me real quick because I still love my father, despite what happened, what he was, what happened years ago, what he was diagnosed with. But this is something new. She told me he was recently diagnosed with dementia. So she said my sister, my younger sister, was planning or maybe a trip. So I got to reach out to her sometime or call my family in the Cleveland, Ohio area. I have a lot of family down there who I think about all the time and find out, try to see what's going on. Because my cousin took me, we went and found him some years ago when they got word he was down there. Because my dad, originally he was diagnosed many years prior with a mental disorder, and he, if you know anything about that, people, they disappear sometimes. They're like drifters. They go their own way. He would end up in different cities, different places. He was kind of a very aloof person, and that's part of one element. And then my cousin told me some years ago, over a decade ago, when I actually went with my cousin when was going on a trip down there. We went specifically, instead of me hanging with the rest of my family members, I stayed specifically with my cousin so I could actually go find where he was at. My cousin told me he's at that time knew where he was staying or a shelter he was at, and we went to go see him. By the way, big shout out to my cousin Delmar, aka Mafioso, in the streets, in the 216. Much love for you. You know, you're a real one. By the way, you kept it real 100. Even since I was a little boy, I had a story I could tell. I told a friend of mine about the other side of me. I wasn't always this good kid, you know, at one time. But my cousin, you know, even though he went through different experience than I did, he's a real one. So I had to give a real big shout out to. That's why it was these past couple weeks and past couple months have been very emotional for me. And yeah, but back to just briefly before I leave the story about the 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 sister that I was interested in at the clinic. By the way, my friend of mine had asked me and brought up this statement, said, "What's up with you, man, hollering at all these doctors?" And I wanted to say, after she pulled back or got distant, there's a coworker of hers that she worked with, to make a long story short. And I had only asked her, her coworker, what was her name? And ironically, when this coworker of hers started, I actually happened to be working or stationed to work over there the day that her coworker first started there. So she told me her first name years ago or whatever. I looked her up. I think her name, wasn't exactly sure, was Kristen. I didn't really try to seriously approach her in a romantic way. I like the fact she was always courteous. She would speak to me in the morning, compared to sometimes people don't say good morning to you when you're at the front desk or whatever. I like the fact, I would say, she would speak over 90% of the time, but my choosing signals was meant for someone else in particular, I'm gonna just say. And big shout out to my mentor for helping me understand the situation. But I'll just refer to Dr. C. By the way, you know, it's very, very interesting experience. But I just said there's something about her and that I was attracted to, and also I felt the demographic of her women. I feel are underserved and not really uplifted and appreciated as they should. By the way, not just the field of work, the genre that she's into, but I feel one of the reasons that I approached her, she had that sex appeal. For us guys, it's different. Some women may not understand or don't know why us guys we approach certain, and it doesn't matter. I told a friend of mine I'm not pocket watching because some my friends asked me, was I intimidated or things of that sort, and I'm not looking at those things. When I approach a woman I'm interested in, it's not about the money, but part of it you could say is it's attractiveness, it's personality. But I like the fact when I first met her and she told me, and I just inquired about some things, and she went back and got her business card for me after she forgot when she was leaving off work one day, and she went back and got her business card. And then I called her by her first name, which was on the card, and then she corrected me. I didn't realize, and she said, "Dr. So-and-so." And I said, "Oh, that's right." And I give someone that respect. We're at work in a professional environment, too, by the way. But I saw a beautiful woman at the time, and I just wanted to tell that story. That's when I met her first, and I really caught feelings, and my feelings go deep. By the way, I catch feelings, and it's been a while, but I appreciate her, you know, being nice, courteous, and some other things. And I'll tell more about this story to be continued, but you know, it is for what it is. But I just want to share that. But interestingly, I was just stunned when I found out 1 month later on May 17th, which landed on a Saturday, that the day that I had approached Dr. C was Thursday, April 17th. And the reason I was able to remember, because a friend of mine that I had worked a school the next day, I told him that, similar how Melly Monaco has that show and says, "Fellas, shoot your shot." And I said, I just told him briefly about the story. And I was able to trace back the day, and I said, wow, out of all the days in the year, it landed on 417. How ironic is that? Interesting. But there's some other powerful things that happened. I had a dream as well. I didn't get a chance to tell you, but I ran out of time. I gotta go. I gotta get back to my patrols, what I'm doing. But I just share that. I'm grateful. Thank God. Appreciate you guys that continue to rock with me, continue to follow my channel, Dorsey's Resource, those that have continued to support me throughout the years, my friends in my inner circle, my sensei, my mentor. Appreciate you being there for me at the time and explaining that situation. And also my other friend, even though he was kind of distant when I was sharing the story, but he helped me with the watch and everything as far as working out, training, and his training is going to help, for that. And I appreciate him, going over that information with wiring me up on a HRV, heart rate variability, and things, and keeping me into the health and explaining how that aspect is good and going on a deep dive. But I want to thank my friends in my inner circle. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, watching me, my loyal subscribers, everyone. Thank you. I rock with y'all. I'm out. Peace.